Hey, good evening, everybody. It is Saturday, November 14th. It's Bits and Pieces here. You know what Saturday the 14th of November means? That means that the Isolation EP has officially released tonight, and I'm very happy. I mean, it really released today, but still really happy about it. I'm going to go ahead and post the link in the chat. So I'm really excited to have everybody, being able to listen to this. I know you've been able to preview it prior, but that's up on Bandcamp for right now. I'm going to keep it there, and eventually I'm going to start moving it over to Amazon and Apple and all those places. So for those of you who are in Spotify, for those of you who like to listen to it there, I'm going to like slowly release it into each one. I just wanted to try it out on Bandcamp by itself first. So what I wanted to do tonight, as the title implies, this is really a kind of like just like a listening party. Okay, we're gonna listen to each track. I'm not gonna go like super into details of breaking each one down, but I am gonna go ahead and just talk about them for a little bit, and then what I'm also gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna go ahead and also answer any questions that you might have. I'm going to stay on until about 7:45, so about 40 minutes. So we'll listen to each track because they're all pretty short, but that's okay. That's the kind of the point of these types of tracks I made. But we can go ahead and talk about those if you want to pop in and say hi. That's awesome. So let me go ahead and grab this real quick. There we go. Okay. So for this one, I'm not going to be using my normal program. I'm just going to be using one of my music players on my computer, but I'm still going to keep the graphic up so we can talk. And as you'll see, I made my face a little bit bigger in the webcam in the corner. So you'll see this in the background, but we're really just going to be listening today and kind of just talking about those for a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Right before you do, though, I know I've mentioned this in a few streams in the past. All the tracks in this EP, plus a handful of other ones that I've been making, these were all done right like when right when COVID first started hitting, and they pretty much told us all we should stay at home for weeks at a time to prevent the spread. And really, aside from essential groceries, I didn't go out anywhere. I stayed home. I live streamed everything. Did remote work. I did everything from home, and I did a lot of this type of stuff on my free time because I had nothing else to do. But I will admit that in some areas, this took me a while to make because my creativity took a hit. I don't know if it was just the isolation, like of being alone. I mean, I had people to talk to and stuff on the phone and Zoom, but it's not really the same. And didn't have like that human interaction during that time as much, so it was a little bit tougher to kind of get my creativity going like I normally do. So we'll go ahead and start, and the first track that's on my EP is called "The Long Awaited Return." So let's give that one a listen, and we'll kind of talk about that right afterwards. Yeah, so for that track, okay, the long-awaited return. One of the reasons I called it that was if you've been following my work, the third album was Upgrade Complete, and from start to finish, that entire album is a video game soundtrack. So I mean, really, like, I really want you to think along the lines of like I grew up with, a lot of my inspiration came from like the SNES era of gaming, where like you just had the awesome soundtracks, the crazy games, the really great gameplay. Like that was like the prime. It's nothing like today. Games are fun today, but I still have that kind of, you know, nostalgic attachment to the old stuff from the 90s. But um, so this one's called The Long Awaited Return because I wanted this to be kind of a follow up, quote unquote, like sequel ish track for two, I should say, Upgrade Complete. So I came up with this idea, and I was originally going to put this in a whole separate album, and then I decided, like a whole big project. And then I decided I was like, I'd really like to release an EP. And again, this is one that I made during our time where we all had to pretty much stay at home and do nothing but sit around and be productive that way. So I was productive doing this. But that one I tried to make it a little bit more intense with the drums. I wanted to add a couple of new styles, especially you heard that last part at the end with that rolling drum, those rolling drum kicks and things like that. I did that on purpose. I wanted to make it really intense. And I was originally actually going to make the last track of the EP, but I wanted to make it a little bit more in the beginning because I want to rev people up. So when they listen to this, like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And I really, I'm trying to evoke those feelings of like, this is amazing, the music's good, and then kind of those of you who grew up like I did in that SNES era of gaming, you're hearing some of that, but it's not using necessarily the SNES, the sounds necessarily. The music kind of sounds reminiscent, but I'm not using those SNES sounds. I'm just trying to get some of that vibe, but add some modern elements to it. So we're going to listen to this next one now. This one's called Unbridled Ambition, and you'll see why it's called this. It's a little bit funky. It's a little bit something I haven't done before prior. Added bass, like crazy bass and things like that. And I don't do things like that. So let's let's give this one a listen. All right, so yeah, unbridled ambition. So I'm not one to use that kind of like wet bass in most of my music. I really actually try to shy away from it. And also, you'll notice the synth, I tried to make it a little bit different. It wasn't too different from what I'm used to, but I tried to make the drums a little more intense with that. And you'll notice towards like the 115 mark where the wet bass is just kind of playing and then the reverb goes and it gets really echoey. I actually struggled really like quite a bit with that portion. I was going to cut that. I was going to try to add a bunch of stuff. And part of how I really determine what I should and should not include in my music is I'm part of a few groups here on Facebook and a few other places where we offer each other feedback and like legitimate feedback, like compositionally speaking, mix, how is the mixing. We try to give each other actual like really solid feedback, instead of just like, hey, this is great, because that's really tough to improve upon. I mean, you could really legitimately mean that something's great, but if you have no feedback, it's kind of tough to let the person grow and develop. So this one, I added that bass because previous tracks that are on this EP, I had not added bass right away. And that made it really tough. For me, when I first had this track, um, I had no bass, and when they had said, "Hey, you should really add some," I started adding a little bit more just to make it kind of give it that little extra push that it needed. And I'm liking how that turned out as well. So that one's good. And now next one that's coming up called "Reclaiming What Was Ours." This one is also going to be a little bit different. I am not one like I have ideas. You're going to start hearing this kind of like chiptune clap that's going on throughout the track. I was originally going to make that kind of like almost sounding like a marching, like feet marching. I was going to distort it and make it kind of like that, and that's not how it turned out. It turned out completely different. But that I'm not disappointed in that. So let's give that a listen, then we'll kind of talk about that one. And again, if you're popping in and you're listening, feel free to leave a comment and let me know how you're doing tonight. Hopefully everybody's doing okay. And let's go ahead and give this one a listen. Okay, so a couple of things about that track. Okay, when I another instance when I first made that, there was no bass at all, and I have three variations of this track hanging around in my program. One with a completely different bass that I thought was a little too much. And even this one with the bass, I thought the bass was too much. And I got a lot of feedback, and a lot of people said no, they thought it brought it out a little bit. A lot of people, when they listen to this, they are really liking right about the 105 mark. They're really liking that melody with the synth. They think that's the best. So we'll give that part a listen really quick. And I kind of like it. I think it really brings the track together, and it really finishes it up nicely. But this part right here. So that part right there, yeah, a lot of people really like that. And I was kind of surprised because I didn't think much of it. Like, I'm not gonna say I didn't think much of it, but I like the other parts. And then I was like, okay, the more I listen to that track, the more I actually like that part. And I like that. If you've seen the other streams that I'm doing where we're actually building a track live with you guys watching, and that's exactly what this is. It's just me adding extra bricks and layers, quote unquote bricks to the music, and just adding layers and seeing what works. And it doesn't mean it's going to work every time. Sometimes it doesn't work all that great. It doesn't work out that well, and I have to change things, and it kind of clashes. But I really try to put a lot of effort to making sure that these melodies and tunes and things that you're hearing, that I can use those later in the track. It's just like building a song, like you think of your favorite rock band, and how do they create this chorus and these bridges and all these awesome things. And a lot of my music doesn't have quote unquote a bridge, but it has some of those elements in it, that trying to layer things on top of each other and making it have that really solid finish. And if you listen to my very first album, there really wasn't much of that. A lot of those tracks just kind of ended. And that was when I was like super amateur hour. I had like no reverb. I didn't know what I was doing other than when I was trying to mix. If I thought it wasn't going too loud, I thought it was okay. So definitely come a long way this far. And this last one that we're going to listen to, No Time for Treading Lightly, this is the last one on the EP that's now on Bandcamp. As I mentioned, the link's in the chat. But this one was actually the first that I actually made out of all of these four. So this was the very first one that I made. And you're going to hear it's a little bit different from the rest. You're going to hear parts of, there's a specific synth from the Project Roar series that I'm working on, the Resilience of a Robot. And you're going to hear that in here. And then you're also going to hear what I kind of call like the trademark bits and pieces guitar. You're going to hear that. But you're going to hear, it's going to be a little bit different. I've added some reverb and made it lengthier. It's not like a stabbing guitar anymore. It's kind of a actual, like a long strum. So we'll listen to this one. And this is the very first one of this EP that I actually made, and I'm happy with it. But I still put it in the last track of the album. So let's go ahead. Yeah, so a lot different from the other three. There's still enough of a like I don't want to say enough of a similarity, but there's still enough instruments in there and compositionally, like I felt that it fit into this EP. And when I called it "No Time for Treading Lightly," that was again like that. This was the very first one that I made to begin this EP. Before, and this was before I even decided to release this as an EP, but I kind of came up with that. And again, that was like just like the first, what, 2, 3 weeks into this pandemic, and decided that that's kind of the mood I was feeling. Like you better got to be a little bit cautious out there. It's a little bit dicey, but and it still kind of is. I mean, depending on who you ask. So for this one, I think where the highlight of this track is really when we get a little bit towards like the 1:16 mark, where you start hearing that reverb kick in, and then you start hearing that higher synth come in. We'll give that part a listen real quick. Yeah, so yeah, again, everything layered out, and a lot of times I'm going to be honest with you, that's accidental. It's hopeful, but it's accidental. I will throw things in and again just say, oh, I hope this pans out in like the 2 minute mark or the 1.5 minute mark. And most of the times it does. Most of the time it does. Sometimes it doesn't. I have to completely change everything, or I'll really not be happy with it. This one didn't require too much tweaking, honestly. After I made it, I really, those of you who don't know, I typically will mix these like on the fly. I will mix them as I'm making them because I'm not very good at mixing. I don't know all the ins and outs of that and all the special things. So I'll mostly mix it in the program. And if I still find it a little bit too much, I will go into Audacity and kind of go in there and maybe tweak it just a little bit more so it's not overbearing. I don't want to blow up anybody's eardrums. And I also hate when music is so loud, or like sounds are so loud that it's distorting the sound. It's so loud that it's muffled and it's awful. I hate that. And I'll share the fun fact again. I'm not sure if if you've listened to my streams before, but believe it or not, in my right ear, I actually lost some hearing going to a Paul McCartney concert. There was a big firework at the last one of the last songs, and it actually like pretty badly damaged my right eardrum, like to a point that I've actually lost a significant amount of hearing in my right ear. But I can still hear with the music. Thankfully, I'm very thankful for that. But there are certain tones and things that if it's too high or too low, I don't hear it. So I try not to also make it so I have it really loud, because I don't want to deafen those of you who maybe can hear it just fine and maybe I can't. So, but yeah, so that in a nutshell, everybody, that is my EP in a nutshell. And again, it's on Bandcamp right now. I am considering releasing it onto the other streaming services in the coming weeks. I just wanted to try Bandcamp first, see how people like it, and get a feel for it. And it's $4. It's typically the EP quote unquote sweet spot. I'm not going to charge $8 for 4 songs because they're not going to let it set up that way. So you pay $2 a track. Everybody would just buy it by track in that case. And but yeah, definitely give it a listen. If you're not sure if it's something you like, but you have a video game music lover in your life, definitely share my page with them or share my Bandcamp link with them. Let me know if you're going to be using this as like a Christmas gift for some folks. You can buy it for some people. If you do buy it, definitely go on my Bandcamp page as well. Leave me some feedback. Let me know what you think. Give me your honest feedback. If you really do like most of it, but not maybe a particular track, let me know. I'm always there to improve. I'm not going to take offense. And I will tell you, as I always tell everybody, it's okay if you tell me my music sucks. I'm just going to ask you why. and ask you for constructive criticism. So if you decide, or somebody decides, they tell me my music sucks, but they don't give me any feedback as to why and how to improve, I'm not going to take that feedback very seriously. I don't really care. I don't take it to heart. I take it more to heart when they do give me legitimate feedback, because then that's letting me grow. But that is going to be my stream for tonight. We're just hitting the half-hour mark right now. I just want to do something quick, and I really do hope you guys enjoyed this. And I am going to be on the lookout. Sometime next week, I will be posting some more stuff about this EP, but I will be starting essentially part 3 of our building a track together. I'm thinking maybe Monday or Tuesday night. Seems to be quieter nights in everybody's lives, from the people I know that like to watch. So I'll try to go back on that. But until then, everybody, I do hope you have a great rest of your weekend. And definitely reach out if you have any questions, you just want to stop over and say hi, shoot me a message.